Okay, welcome everybody to this evening's ACY Securities webinar. My name is Duncan Cooper. Tonight is Forex Trading Live Market Analysis. So a bit of housekeeping, if we can go through the risk disclaimer. If you're on our YouTube channel, I can't see the chat, but you're more than welcome to join us. Just click on the link I provided and you can come into the webinar and ask questions. Other than that, you can just watch because I can't see the chat, so I won't be able to chat back to you. All right, so please read through the risk disclaimer. Any questions as we're going through the webinar, just type into the question answer box or the chat box. All right, so let's move along. If you don't know me, just looking at people on board, I think everybody knows me, but if you don't, my name is Duncan Cooper. I'm the Senior Market Strategist and Trading Mentor at ACY Securities. I'm a full-time trader, been trading the Forex market now for more than 15 years and been mentoring clients for more than 10. If you want to contact me regarding the webinars, then just shoot me an email, duncan.cooper@acy.com. If you want to connect with me through the week at our website, you'll find my analysis at the acy.com website, Market News tab, at our YouTube channel, ACY Securities Australia, and you can connect with me on Twitter and LinkedIn if you want to. There are some of my handles. As well, through the week, you can connect with me in our Telegram channel. If you'd like to get access to that, just email Nathan Bray. I will put his details in the chat momentarily. As well, if you want to get access to my chart layouts and indicators, the MT4 setup that I use in my webinars, then contact Nathan. He will organize that for you. So I'll put his details in the chat. As well, if you've got any questions about opening an account or just questions on accounts generally, Nathan's the guy to go to. He will be happy to talk with you. So I'll just put his details in the chat. All right, so that's in the chat. So let's get into it. Let's just firstly look at the news events for the week. Lots of high events coming out. Tonight, midnight, we got the US ISM manufacturing PMI and JOLTS job openings. In the morning for New Zealand, we've got unemployment rate change coming out. Into tomorrow evening for the US, we've got ADP non-farm employment change. Big one for the week, 4 o'clock in the morning on Thursday will be the FOMC statement. That's the US interest rate statement. And press conference at 4:30. And then we've got the Bank of England's interest rate decision on Thursday, 10 p.m. These are my time, Queensland time. And into Friday, we've got the US job figures. Now, I've skipped over a few, but those are the main big ones to watch for. So you can go to Forex Factory and review all those, but those are the main ones, I think, to worry about. Over the next 24 hours, coming in on the midnight, we've got the US ISM manufacturing PMI. In the morning, we've got the New Zealand unemployment rates. All right. And then Thursday in the morning, the FOMC statement. So that's what's happening in the next day and a half. So be aware of that. So the market might get a little bit flat, might not be in a massive trend because of these items coming out. So let's get into charts. I might use just my price action charts tonight. I just want to click through, see what's going on in the 15 minutes. But I want to go through my price action charts just because I want to look at the major levels for the month ahead. I want to know where the monthly highs and lows are and talk about those today. So I can start to set my head around where I might want to trade for the month at the start of the month. All right, I might just start on the New Zealand dollar and then I'll go into the dollar index now. Just because it's at a level that I'm watching, and you can decide how you want to trade this on the setup if you like the level. Now, the monthly trend is quite clearly down here. And we're just having a month up. This is why I'm looking at this pair right now because we're at last month's high. So we're just having a month up, and what might happen, a little bit like what happened on this candle here. We just had a month up, this candle here, and then we traded down for the whole month. So wouldn't that be great if we failed at last month's high and traded down for the whole month? So, if you start watching last month's high, you might see a setup that you like to trade down. Of course, we've got the job figures coming out tomorrow, so I'm going to be waiting till after the job figures, but you might want to trade before then. It's up to you. So the monthly trend is down and the weekly trend is down if we're using these major highs and lows. Now, the question in my mind is, how much of a rally are we going to have? Corrective rally on this weekly structure. I could draw a fib in from a lower top to bottom. 62 levels up at 61.02. I've got weekly resistance here at 60.47. Are we going to have such a high movement back up? We start to move above last month's high nicely, probably. That's the way I would think. But at the moment, if we fail at last month's high, then I might be starting to look to just trade down from last month's high. So day charts is going to show you an uptrend as we're in these corrective phase on the weekly chart, and we're having 1 month up. 59.21 is weekly resistance from back in time. So what might happen is that red candle there is last month's high. We could fail here and start to move back below 58.13 over the next week. So over the next week, you could watch if we move back below 58.13 for 58.13 to be resistance. So, price action does something like this. It moves back below, comes back up, and 58.13 becomes resistance for a movement back down to challenge last month's low. That's if we get a false move on the upside at the moment. Now, on the 4-hour chart, if you've got my charts, then what you'll know is that this is last week's high, and it's also last month's high. And we have been forming some form of consolidation here. Are we at the top of the range here, where potentially we might be, just at the moment testing the liquidity above last month's high? All right, so we're in some form of range there. Are we failing at the top of the range to start to break back down into the range of last month? All right, that's what I'm thinking about. So I'm just going to wait till tomorrow comes and wait for the news event to finish from New Zealand, and then see where price sits. And then if I see another failure up here tomorrow, then I might have a go at trading it down. Now, you might want to have a go at trading down before then. So you just need to work out how you want to trade it. You can trade it as a range, as I've shown you. They put the fib across the range. Let's just use the bottom part for the range. So you can't quite trade at the top because we're not quite at the top now. We're starting to withdraw down, but you could be looking to get in by the 79% level to trade down to the bottom, stop above the high, or you could be looking for, some kind of intraday entry. Don't have a trend line break or anything there at the moment. This may well come back up to retest last month's high. So you could be selling at last month's high, 100 pips stop above, or selling at last month's high, just stop above the high, depending on how many pips you want to risk. But we're at some form of resistance there. We could be moving back down. So you just need to work out yourself. 1, do you like the level? 2, what kind of setup do you want to look to trade from that level? Okay. So last month's high, if you don't have my charts, and last week's high is at 58.72. All right. Now, of course, we could break out above there, and we've got some US news coming out later. This may be only short-term consolidation before we move higher, or we may be forming consolidation to move lower. So I'm always aware where last month's high is. I'm always aware what kind of structure is forming around the high or the low for the possible reversal back down the range. So I'm just watching the area. Covered the New Zealand yen today in some analysis. And we're in a weekly resistance area up here. What I'd like to see is, all right, there's a monthly range there. We have moved above last week's high and last month's high, but are we going to fail in the area? So look at all these weekly highs to the left. These are weekly highs, even on the day chart. So weekly highs, weekly high, weekly high, weekly high. So this whole area I'm looking at resistance. Are we moving in to move back down? Slide, you think there's a risk that markets might go up to the 7th? Well, they could do. But I mean, I'm just looking at areas where the market could potentially fail at. Then the market has to show me a good enough reason to trade. So yes, they could just continually move up, or resistance will be resistance and we'll move back down. Okay, so let the market show you that, okay, price wants to hold and tell the story. All right, so just be aware, you know, once, twice, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times on the weekly chart we failed up here. All right, so it wouldn't be too much of a stretch of an imagination to think that we could fail here again. All right, so back to the daily. I'm going to remove that line because what we have is a weekly resistance area up here and a weekly support area down here. All right, so what I'm looking for in the day chart at the moment is simply, first of all, do we reject in this area and close back below this weekly, what I'm classing as resistance? Good evening, Stephen, at 86.21. All right, so at the moment, I'm not doing anything. I'm just waiting for it to show its hand. You know, we could reject today, or by tomorrow when we have the USD and employment figures, we could be starting to want to trade back below 86.21. Then does 86.21 become resistance? So over the next few trading days, does that start, you know, that story start to unfold there? It's showing a little bit of weakness there on the 50-minute chart. All right, but we are still above that resistance. There's the 4-hour look at the moment. All right, 4-hour chart still in an uptrend. That's why I'm just waiting to see if we can move back below 62.21. 79% fibs at 86.30 as well. So 86.30, 86.21, that area there. Does that area become resistance over the next few days? Do we move back below that area? Do we see it get challenged and rejected? And then, okay, if we do, it's game on for a potential move back down the range. Okay, so we don't have that yet, but you know, if you want to be really aggressive, I suppose you could have, I'll show you on the 50-minute chart, you could have already engaged if you wanted to be really aggressive in that. If you knew where we were in the area of resistance on the 50-minute chart, we have broken down into a downtrend. Draw your fib, and this is the 50-minute fib entry. Draw your fib across, selling at the 79 level, stop above the high. It offered you that. You could be risk-free now if you took that entry type of trade. All right. Can't go back in time to take it, so you're going to have to construct something else if you want to engage right now. But for me at the moment, I'm just waiting for this area, 78.60 down to 86.21 to break, price break below. And then does it offer a movement back down that range? All right, I'm going to go to the dollar index and just discuss what we're going on with this. Here we go. I'm squashing it out or in, whichever way I should be calling it. Now I've got a fib from the major range drawn across, and we're still holding above the 79, even though last month's candle dipped below. So we're stuck between what you call monthly support 109.24 and monthly resistance at 111.31. A month down does not change the trend on the dollar index. It simply is corrective. So what happens if we just break the low of the month, well, the previous month, and then simply false break it, and then we trade up all month? Pairs to the US dollar, I'm thinking, and some of the yen pairs, I'm thinking, well, if we just break the high of the month and then we false break, we could move down. And with the dollar index, I'm thinking if we just break the low of the month, we could false break the low of the month and trade all the way back up. Because breaking the low of the month does not change the trend on the monthly chart. just corrective. So, and we might not get a month down. We may just have gone, you know, we had a negative month here, but we did not have a month down. And then we had 1, 2, 3, 4 months up. So maybe last month was just a bit of consolidation and a bit of a loss for the month. And then we're just going to be positive for the month and we're going back up. All right. Weekly, if we're using the major highs and lows, then we had about a 79% retracement. Maybe that's what's occurred. Almost a 79, almost a weekly support, monthly support. And we could just be trading back up now to test the high up here. Okay. So have we finished the pullback would be the question. Is this been all kind of corrective, pulling back to get ready for the next move up? Okay. We're seeing the opposite on the S&P 500. We go to the monthly chart. We haven't had a month up yet, but we had a positive month. There's the monthly range. Maybe we're going to, you know, pop up to the 62% level of the range, which is up here, about the 4,000 level, you know, before heading back down. All right, so structurally at the moment, it's been a little bit corrective to the downside on the dollar index, corrective to the upside in the S&P 500, but there is no major trend change at the moment on any of those instruments. So just been corrective last month. Is that going to end shortly? Or are we going to have a, you know, maybe another corrective month? That's what I'm trying to work out at the moment as we head into a new month. All right, so I'm just going to start with my Aussie pairs. We had the interest rate decision today. Now, if you go to the weekly chart, I know I've got lots of lines on here, but we've had quite a sell-off. If I go to my monthly chart, I can put these lines back in a minute. Let's just get these lower lines off. We've had a heavy rejection a month ago. We had a month down. Couldn't quite change the trend. But are we going to put in a lower top here? Or continue up? Are we going to break the high last month just and then trade down all month and then have another month down and put in a lower top? It's really struggling up here. I've shown you this fib before. In fact, there's the biggest range just there. All right. So 95.76 is the 79% fib level, pretty much where we failed last month. Let me just get a few pips away from that low there. All right, so it's actually 95.67. All right, major range. Are we topping out at the 79% fib level? Weekly, are we coming up to put in a lower top here? Is this like a left shoulder, right shoulder? I know this isn't a lower bottom. Technically for head and shoulders, that should be a lower bottom, but whether it's a head and shoulder pattern or not, this is a clear resistance area. Weekly resistance, 79% fib of the major range. We're clearly struggling on the weekly chart here at the moment. Even this week, we've tried to get up there today on positive, what seemingly was positive news, even though we had an interest rate hike. And it was only a 25 base point hike, so that would have been more negative, I would have thought, than positive. But we have been positive for the day. We have been positive for the week. We had moved slightly above last week's high, but not the week before. To the daily, it's very choppy in here, but you can see the shadows on these candles as they get up towards 95.73 weekly resistance across here. The 79% fib price keeps pulling back down. So that would be an excellent area to, you know, structure a sell. You could be selling there with a 100 pip stop above. I mean, I'm thinking that there's also a 62% level of this range in that area. If we touched it today, I'm thinking we've moved down, we've rallied, we're moving down this way. Okay. Now, it's not giving up easy for the last 2 or 3 weeks. And of course, we could move higher. All right. So you can see all this choppiness. you want to, if you're thinking this is to the downside, it would be great to try to sell at a level that's really high, close in this area. And what seemingly is where price is trading is between 95.50 and 95, a fraction below 95 at the moment. So, trying to look for an opportunity to trade down from around about 95.50 would be ideal. Or you could just wait for the structure to start to form and show a clear downtrend. It's not doing that yet because we have a higher top. We actually have an uptrend here on the 4-hour chart at the moment, heading into the resistance area. But if we start to get a 4-hour downtrend forming there, that may then show you an opportunity to maybe trade and sell a rally on a 4-hour downtrend. Or you can look right in this area. We get another test of that area. Last week's high, 62% fib. Last month's high is this high here. So that whole area there is a big struggle. So, we might just trade above last month's high and then a false break. So the numbers are, if you don't have my charts, last week's high is 95.43 up to 95.73. That area there. Can the market once more move in there, give you an opportunity to trade down? It's already breaking down on the 15, but just at the moment, it's looking like it may want to pop up. But over the coming days, we may well see 95 become resistance. So watch 95. At the moment, it has been support for the day. We've been below it, but it may well become resistance over the next few days. So watch those areas. I'm looking for a major structural change to downside potentially. We'll see whether that comes to fruition. Day chart on the Aussie. Now, last month, we started to hold down here. Can we have a month up? Can we false break last month's high? Or maybe we can't and we're just going to trade down. So weekly, the weekly range from the big highs and lows is there. So if we had a deeper rally, support there at 66.81 is weekly support, 66.71 is a broken level of monthly support. So if we can get a deeper rally this month, I'll be watching up here at 66.71 for failure. That's if we can get a deep rally. We might not be able to break the high of last month. So on the daily at the moment, structurally it is up. It is getting some form of support ahead of day support here at 63.63. It's just managing to hold about 64 at the moment. Are we just going to hold this uptrend to come up? Test last month's high. And can we come up to 66.71? Now, this is last month's high here. So last month's high is at 65.47. Last week's high is here at 65.22. So that would be an area I'll be first watching for failure at the moment for this pair if we can further move up. Not sure if we can get up there, but that's the area I'm watching at the moment. Can we get into that area, just trade above last month's high and false break, and then trade all the way back down? Now, I might change my mind if the structure starts to change. You can see how this structure we formed last month in that area. Consolidation structure, false breaking, the highs to fall down. So it'd be great if we can move back into this area. Hold, maybe false break the high and see a failure back down. So I have that area watching over the next week. We've got the FMC statements. We've got the job figures on Friday. Price can definitely be in that area this week. All right, I know you might be going, well, it's not there at the moment. I want to do something, but we can get there this week. That might be the top of the month, and you can take a trade there and you can be in it for the rest of the month. All right, so it's not about clicking in every 5 minutes. It's getting where the best levels to trade from. This would be a great area to trade from if we got up there. All right, euro yen. Now on the weekend, I said watch 47.71. Now, trends a bit mixed on the daily at the moment. Your high time frame trends are up. There's your weekly, but the weekly, when you're using the fib, price is in the overextended phase of the fib tool, the profit target area of the fib tool. We could be topping out up there for a move, for retracement from that higher bottom to that top. So the 62 level will come in at 141.55. Are we having a corrective measure down? As well, when you look at the bigger time frame, monthly, we're very high up here. Just forget this is a monthly chart. And I talk a lot about structure. I'll say on the 4-hour chart. Let's just call this a 4-hour chart for a moment. Look at this. Let's call this 4-hour consolidation here. We break down. We come up to the base of the consolidation here, right? And we break down. All we're really doing here is coming up very much close to this area, base of consolidation here that we failed at previously. All right, so it looks the same in any time frame. I know it's a monthly chart, so you might be thinking, well, it's going to be slow going. It's not going to stop there. But you see this kind of structure forming on the day charts and the 4-hour charts all the time. It's the same story. So are we actually in an area where we could be failing at this long-term structure, just underneath this long-term structure here? Let's just look further left. Look at the structure here. Look at the structure here. Structure here. All right, we're in an area, we're in a historical area of structure where the market's used before over the last 30 years. All right. So it would not be too much of a stretch of imagination to think that we could top here for a long-term move down. Now, our monthly, weekly trends are up at the moment. But just look at the structure. Where are we? All right, so yes, the high time frame trends are up. On the daily at the moment, we're in consolidation. We've just failed at the top of the range. We're in the middle of the range. It's not the best place to be trading, right in the middle. So at the moment, we may be drifting down to this line, which is an old monthly top. You've got a top here too, fraction below at 145.63. So can we break below support to trade? No, have a corrective move back down. Or we could trade up quite clearly as well, but we are high up. I've shown you where the structure is on the monthly chart. There is a very minor double top potentially here. Okay. So let's look on the 4-hour chart. Now we have traded above last week's high just and false broke yesterday. So we may be false breaking last week's high to maybe come down to last week's low, which is down here. All right, but obviously you need to get yourself short to trade down to that. Earlier in the day in the Telegram, I discussed trading a failure at the 147 level, which we've had. Now we can't go back in time to trade that, but here's the 147 level. Pretty much traded and failed at 147 and then did try to test central pivot. If you know my 15-minute fib trade entry, then there was a movement down from the figure, came back to the figure, 79% fib, stop above the high, and it's traded down. All right, so we can't go back in time and trade that level. Now you might find over the next day or two, but 147 gets tested again. It could be resistance once more. All right, so at the moment, we've really missed the best opportunity. Been a couple of opportunities. Trend line break. There's that fib retracement back to the figure as well that you could have traded. So a couple of opportunities to trade down from that area today already. So are we failing at resistance up here to firstly move down to monthly support, 145.68? Can that break down? To maybe then move down to maybe try and challenge last week's low, 143.68. All right, euro dollar. All right, so starting the monthly. Now we traded inside the month of last month. We were positive for the month, but maybe that's as good as we can get. And we're just going to trade down this month. All right, so let's just discuss the lines of my chart. On the weekly chart, this weekly low here, we were above it last week, but now we're below it. And already it's becoming resistance. So watch 99.52 to be weekly resistance once more for a movement down. You know, looking at that high to low, we've had a 79% fib failure. 10050 here is a day chart level of resistance here. So what we've done is we've challenged resistance, lines up with the fib. That's last month's high. Well, the previous month's high, that's September's high to low here, trading inside that monthly candle. Looks like a 79% fib failure, a day resistance for a movement back down. At the moment now, any rallies, today's rally is just getting capped at weekly resistance in the 62 fib of that range. Been fractionally short of 99.52, so if we can push up, don't know whether we can push up again, but if we can push up again today, as well, what I saw, we've got the major 62% range at the moment, this 4-hour range, we've come up fractionally short of the 62 of the 4-hour range. Okay. So this whole area here today could be where we're topping out. Weekly resistance and those 262 fibs. All right, so you can watch that area. We may well come back into that area again today for another test. We've already been in there once. We may have already failed, but you can watch for a further retest. But moving back to the day chart, with that range that we may have failed at the 79, if we failed at the 79 here, I'm looking at that is a move down. Last month was all corrective to here. And we're moving like that. Okay. That's what I'm looking at the moment. So we'll look, 99.52, we can't hold above parity anymore, can we? So maybe we're failing at parity, we're back below parity. Ed, when you're asking me, you put your fib from the start of the range around 100942. Just working out where 100942 is. Not quite sure where that is. Have you got your number right on the 4 1-hour time frame? All right, let me just tie this up. So if you just get rid of that large fib. So the second fib that I drew was just, see how we've moved down, put in the lower top, lower bottom. So I'm just using that 4-hour downtrend range. Of course, I think you're telling me you're using this range from up here. I mean, that range will work if we trade above the last lower top on the 4-hour. But at the moment, I'm just thinking that we're going to continue the 4-hour downtrend. So we're going to just keep the 4-hour continuation pattern forming. We've moved down, we're rallying, we're moving down. But yes, if we move above that high, then use the fib across that range, and then you got the 79% fib at overlapping with 10050. So yes, I mean, if we move higher, of course, up here would be great, but we may have failed there already. I only say that because we did have an imbalance that got filled. So you see this big candle here, where we made an imbalance here, but then this candle came up pretty much closed the imbalance. Didn't quite, but pretty much closed it. So that movement back up there to me is almost pretty much saying we filled the imbalance. So I don't know if the market needs to get back up into that area because it's kind of filled the imbalance that it created. So we might not move to there anymore. So at the moment, I would be looking at this range. And you can see all this on the 1 hour chart, you can see all this consolidation before we started to break down. So really, we've just come back up to a little 1 hour base of consolidation here. So we may have already topped for the day. However, we could, go in for a final stab up there, but I think maybe we're going to put in another lower top on the 4 hour. And you're watching the 1 level too. Yeah, we could get up to 1 level, but we have to get up there. Maybe, can we get up there? That is the question. Have we already started to sell down? Are we already on the way down? And we've already failed from those high levels already. All right. All right, pound yen is a little bit more of the buoyant pairs at the moment. Next major level of resistance is at 174.83 from the monthly chart over here. Just want to see where we are within that range. Or a little bit above the 62. It's not at an exact fib level, so it's not really telling me too much at the moment. Weekly chart is just showing you an uptrend, but we are very, very overextended, okay? I don't want to be buying here just because of the overextension. I'm not saying that there's a signal to sell at the moment, but I'm very much aware of how much we've moved and from where we've moved. So if you want to be with the buyers, this day chart support here, 170.09, it needs to hold a support for you to be a buyer to continue up. If we start to move below that level, we could then welcome down to this monthly top, this weekly top. Okay. 4 hour trend remaining up. So if you are bullish this pair, you're prepared to be a buyer at high levels. We have a 62% level. We have daily resistance becoming support here. All right, that's your support level. 170, 62% fib at 169.98. Daily support at 170.09. So we're getting a bounce there. You just need to work out, do you want to be on that side of the market and do you want to trade in that area? Okay. All right, pound dollar. Let me just get that fib off. Now, I posted this in the Telegram earlier today. I was looking at this area. We had a nice sell-off yesterday. I was looking at this area here, the market to maybe move into and hold and turn around, but it hasn't done that. So look at the monthly. Are we able to have a month up this month? So we were positive last month, but couldn't have a month up. Can we actually trade up above the high of last month, or are we simply positive last month to be further negative this month? Or, can we break above last month's high like we did here? Just broke above and then collapsed. Are we going to get some significant price movement to the upside? Weekly structure. I know we've got a bit of a weekly top here, but I'm using my weekly structure from that high to low. It's much more of a significant range. And we're pretty much at the 62 level of that range. Yesterday, we were actually below, we were below it. And that top there, 114.96, we actually closed below that top yesterday. So I'm favoring more of a move back down below this low. I mean, with all the things that have been going on in the UK, new prime ministers and the volatility of the month before, new prime ministers come in, nothing's changed. They've got inflation like 10% or above, whatever it is. Nothing's changing from a fundamental perspective in the UK. All I'm seeing is that we're just at higher prices for the market to sell down from. Now, we could obviously get a major correction. This day chart trend is still in an uptrend in terms of high tops and bottoms. It is maybe getting support here, fractionally above this day top. Is it false breaking this weekly day top here, 114.96? Or is it simply bouncing, in this area at the moment intraday? So it's not easy at the moment to, do you go with the high time frame, which is down? Or do you go with the day chart trend, which is up? So what I did notice, I said this on the weekend, from this day resistance area here, 116.09, 4 days we've traded at 116.09 and couldn't really do too much above it, and we traded down from that level. All right, 4 hour structure is down. I was hoping that maybe we'll just get a very short rally. We would maybe hold underneath that top, but we haven't done that. So we could come up within the 4 hour range. So that's that high. Looking at it on the 15, that's that high there to the low down here. Failing at the 50 at the moment, we could come up to the 62. But this is kind of looking like it may have failed here. 3 tops up there at the 50 level of this pivot. Is it ultimately starting to drift down for the day? Is at the top of the day? Excuse me a moment. All right, sorry about that, I had to sneeze. Tony asking me, talking about overextended pairs, don't you think the euro-dollar is overextended and due for at least a good correction on the weekly and monthly? Or to the upside? Well, I mean, it could, but we've been seeing such US dollar strength that nothing is really coming out to say that won't continue. I mean, for months, the market has been overextended on some of these pairs, but it keeps going down. So we did have some positivity last month. Of course, we could move higher, but if we start to see structure that says downtrends, then the key thing for me on the euro dollar that you're talking about is that we did spend some time above parity last week, but now we're back below. So for me, if we were going to start to see strength and correction, the market would want to keep it above parity. We would start to see support coming in on a pullback to parity, holding there to form support. But what we're seeing on the euro dollar is that it doesn't want to do that. And we've moved back below this weekly level of, this has been resistance quite strongly for a long time, 99.52. This week here, where we sold off heavily for 2 weeks, we managed to get above it last week, but this week we're back below it. So to me, when I'm looking at levels that the market's been respecting, it only had enough strength last week to be above it. This week already we're back below it. So if you look at levels where we should be above, if we're showing strength and we're not above them, then maybe we're starting to feel. I know you're telling me on the day we have already 3 high tops and bottoms. Yeah, we do. Well, we have 1, 2, 3. Yep. But what if, and I'm just being devil's advocate because I'm just seeing that the range for September is here, right? All we did in October was trade up to the 79% level of September's range. As soon as we hit it, we put in this nice railroad tracks. Now, if we have failed there, that's not going to show you that you've got a change in trend on the day chart yet until we break a low, which is all the way down here. But on the 4 hour chart, 4 hour structure is already down. All right, so you can wait for the day chart structure to say, okay, we're going back down. But if you're going to wait for that, you're going to miss, a large portion of the move already. So we could, of course, be putting in another higher bottom here to go to another higher top. Of course, we could. All right, I'm just looking at the main levels that the market's been respecting. One of the biggest levels we've been respecting is this low here at 99.52. And why I say that is that was support, and it was support through here. And it was support through here before we dropped. We retested and dropped. We tried to move above it last week and we're back below it. So to me, key level is 99.52. If we keep trading below 99.52, the sellers are in command. If we're above 99.52, the buyers are in command. It's a different way of looking at who's in command. You're saying, well, you think the buyers are in command because you're seeing higher bottoms and tops. I'm just looking at a price point that's been respected as support or resistance over the last 3 months. And at the moment, that line in the sun for me is 99.52. So yes, if we're back below 99.52 today, it does favor more upward movement. But whilst we hold below 99.52, for me, it favors, a downward movement. And my 4-hour top, 62% level, comes in the same area there as well. All right, back to that pound dollar. So it's not at a level I really like here, the 50% level. However, this may have topped out at the 50% level here. So you can watch to see if you see a setup that you like. Personally now, if I was hoping that this would fail at the kind of 114.96, 115 level. I haven't seen that though today. It's popped back above. So it's not really at a level that I like at the moment just to engage in. If you got all the way back up to 1609, where we failed for 4 days in a row, I would definitely watch that level up there. All right, but at the moment, we're miles away from that level. So just have to wait and see what price does. Over the next couple of days, if we do finish back below 114.96 again today, I would once again tomorrow be looking at 114.96 to 11500 to be resistance for a further move down, but we're above that level at the moment. So we'll see what the US news brings. All right, I've covered the New Zealand yen. I've covered the New Zealand dollar. Dollar Canadian. I've been discussing this possible left shoulder, head right shoulder affair on the monthly charts. Now, maybe that's coming together. Weekly trend, there's some minor weekly lows here. I'm using the major low to high here to show me the trend. But in here, when we get to the daily chart, I know we're fading at these resistance levels up here, the weekly and the monthly levels up here, and this daily level here at 37.15 is, if that dollar index has already pulled back and found support at the approximately 7% fib across the weekly range that we were discussing before, and it's going to move up, well, we could be getting support across here. I mentioned it only briefly last week. Could a double bottom form here? We have had 3 positive days since. Is a double bottom forming here? Now we might see it. So it's the 13500 level, 135.02. We might, watch that level, 13500.02. We may have another stab at that level, but if we continually start to hold, we've held there on one attempt. We have another attempt at this level and hold. This could be, creating a double bottom to move back up in line with the weekly trend. All right. 4-hour structure's up here. And, there's a little bit of left shoulder here. Inverted head. Haven't quite pulled back to the 79% level, but this area down here, okay, 79% fibs at 135.35, down to last week's low at 34.95. We could have another stab into that area and hold. If we stab into that again and hold, that's support. We could well be supporting there, and that could be kind of the low of the month. Last month's low, actually. Let me just, last month's low is here. We, like I've been saying on the other pairs, could we false break the highs of the month from last month to move back down? We could false break the low of this pair to move back up. So what we simply have is a bit of a sell-off last month. We have a month down this month just. We false break, we hold at support, and we move back up. All right, so watch that area for support. I mean, it might not test it. You have to decide, do you want to trade the 79% fib level there? You think the 4-hour structure is going to hold and move up, or do you want to see a further test of support and try and trade around the support level to move up? All right. We do have some news coming out. I think, let me just refresh my memory. I know we've got the US news on midnight. Did I see some Canadian news over the next 24 hours? We've got the Bank of Canada Governor Macron speaking. Well, obviously for the US, we've got the interest rate decision. So some of these levels that I'm talking about, will they hold? Will they false break and hold? All that will probably get decided on Thursday morning when we get the interest rate decision, potentially. But we know over the next 12 hours, we could hold and false break, hold and move up. There's, when the news comes out at midnight my time, we could come down here, hold. There's still 24 hours to go before the interest rate decision. 24 hours is a long time in the currency market. We could be all the way back up here in 24 hours, which potentially gives you enough room to get your trade to break even and have a trade there break even in profit, waiting for the next news events. All right. There's a number of news events coming around, so you have to try and juggle. How can you get in? Maybe see a trade move to profit, but that you could hold for the next news item. So there is a potential for this to come in here and hold, at 12 o'clock tonight, and be all the way back up the chart come the next news event. All right, let's just have a look at the gold before we finish up. Big consolidatory. So the big picture is this double top. Are we moving down to approximately the 1300 level down here from the double top price projection? Will we see monthly now resistance, I'm calling it 1676, be retested for a further failure this month? So daily is rather consolidatory. It's still theoretically, there's a top to a lower bottom to a lower top. So it's kind of a downtrend. It's a little bit sideways though as well. Of course, you can see we're having an outside up day today. So that's not good for the downtrend. We have though broken last week's low, so we're having another week down, but just want to see that this is last month's range. To get to 62.79, we'd have to move above 1676, which isn't desirable. I'm drawing my fib across last week's high to low at the moment. Then, could be watching just generally as an area, this 79% area up to the high and resistance here. Some point in the week, do we move into this zone? Or of course, you could think that we've bottomed out here, but whilst we're below 1676 now, I think it's always a question of trying to sell a rally. If we move above 1676, then the buyers are in control. So whilst we're below 1676, the sellers are in control. Do you see price at a structured area where it's maybe rallied to, that you can start to structure a trade to the downside again? There is a little bit of an imbalance in here that the market might want to fill this week. So, coming into the 62 to 79% area there, But I mean, we're not there yet, so I'd have to wait and see what price does when we got there. But a few little areas to watch. There's an imbalance there to fill. There's the resistance, 79% fill up to resistance in that area there. We could fail. We've got these highs here in here that could get tested and hold. So just look for a higher level where the market could hold at. We're not there yet, so I don't think it's in a great area to sell right now. But if it was coming back up to the top of the range, yes, start to watch. Okay. All right, any more questions? We're at the start of the month, so it's good to get where are the key major levels. If you could just trade a couple of things where you're seeing a major failure, if you see a major failure at a monthly high, and then we trade all the way back down to the monthly low, you just do that in a couple of pairs, you'll have a very good month. All right, so I showed you where the key monthly areas are, where we could test and fail. One of the ones I'm watching, as I said, New Zealand dollar, it's kind of, maybe it is moving above there. It's too early to tell at the moment. We've got the job figures coming out tomorrow. Where will it be after the job figures come out? It's trying to move above that level at the moment, but it could just be, playing around that level over the next half trading day, waiting for its job figures tomorrow. And then, what does this level do after that? All right, everybody, thanks very much. Tomorrow, it's the first Wednesday of the month. And what I like to do on the first Wednesday of the month is look back at the market, look at last month's market, just bringing up the webinar page if it wants to load. Sometimes it doesn't want to load when I'm doing the webinar, but tomorrow I'm going to be reviewing what patterns formed from a double top, double bottom point of view, 79% retracement, head and shoulders, or simply purely trading support and resistance. From a structure point of view, what was the structure last month? If I point out what happened last month and show you where you could have maybe been looking to have traded from a hindsight point of view now, will that help you see it this month? All right. One level that worked very well last month, I've already discussed it tonight, just from a pure structure level, was this level here, 99.52. I traded down from here last month. Now, just purely trading the structure, trading down from resistance, trend was down. Are we once more failing at the same resistance here to move down? All right. So I'll be reviewing the most notable ones that stand out for me from last month. Take screenshots. The more you see it in hindsight, hopefully you can start to see it as your foresight. Luther may ask me for the month of November is one to extend the previous fib range for September price movement, draw it to October to a new high or low, or is one to draw a new fib range covering only the price movement of October? It depends. If, for example, on the euro dollar, let me just bring up a fresh chart of the euro dollar so I don't have any lines on it. Try and give you a good answer to your question. In general terms to your question, I will be drawing the fib across last month's range, that's October. However, when the monthly candle, so when October's candle, if that is an inside month, then I might have to look at still using the September's month. So if I just get a new chart for the euro dollar. All right, so what I can see is that October traded inside September. So the range that I'm using at the moment that is September's high to low. That's the candle range of September. So that's the range I'm using because we failed at 79% level. All right, and the candle range for October was inside it. So if it's inside it, and I can see that price topped at, say, the 79% level of the month before, I'm still using that range. If it's not an inside candle, then I'm just using October's range, okay? Hopefully that helped you. So for example, on the Aussie, I'm using, we go to the monthly charts, hang on. Let me get rid of that fib. There's last month's range. So last month's range, we had a down candle. So we're not inside the previous month. So what I'm doing on the Aussie is I'm using the high to low of last month here. That's October's range. Because we did have a month down. It wasn't inside the candle. So you asked me, please repeat. So what I'm saying is if you had a down candle or an up candle for October, you use an October's range. If October's candle was an inside candle to September, use September's range. So on the euro dollar, that blue candle was October. That traded inside September's range. So at the moment, I'm still using September as the range. All right. So when I'm on my day chart, September's high is here. September's low is there. All right. Now, on the 4-hour chart, the indicator that tells you where the highs and lows are for the previous month, it's not the range that I'm using because I'm using September's. That's September's high to September's low. All right. This line here, which is last week's high and last month's high, is there, and last month's low is here. All right, I'm not using that range because October's candle is sitting inside September's candle. All right. Hopefully that helps you. All right, now just remember, we didn't look at the dollar yen, so just before I finish up, let's have a look at the dollar yen just generally. And I might just get rid of a few lines here that we're nowhere near. But at the moment, monthly charts, squash it in. We are below this major top here at the moment, false breaking that top at 147.68 up here. Weekly trend is still up, monthly trend is up, but the weekly trend is still up there as I look at it. And then the pullback did get support at weekly support here at 148.89. Well, we know of intervention coming from the Bank of Japan, keeps coming in. So it's very, very difficult to be a buyer. I did say last week, down to daily support here and weekly support here, this zone of 145.89 down to 144.99, so pretty much 145.00. The buyers are probably coming in here because it's a good support area from all these old tops. So that might be a safe-ish area to look to structure a buy. The higher up you're trying to buy this pair at the moment, as we get back up to 150, the more chance there might be coming intervention from the Japanese bank. So it's dangerous to be a buyer so high up. Structure on the day chart though, even though we bounced up from this area of support, we might be putting in a lower top here in the day chart, a lower bottom. Are we putting in a lower top here? What I did notice is that any pullback that we've had through the latter end of the month, this is the low of the month to the high of the month of last month. And we did get support at 79% retracement of that candle range. So we may have bottomed out already down here. We might just be coming back down to lower levels. This could be just here, an inverted left shoulder head. Are we coming back into this support area here? So it's from day chart support 144.99, weekly support at 145.89, monthly 79% fib at 145.32. This area here, are we coming down into this area to put in a kind of a right shoulder or a move back up? Let's just have a look at that range. Now of that range, the 79% fib lines up with weekly support. It's 145.90. So watch 145.90. That could offer very good support. All right, on the dollar yen. Just be obviously very mindful of intervention at the moment, but that is where potentially support could be for the dollar yen for a move back up. All right, Elif may ask me more questions about the monthly range. So let me just read it. So you're saying once the penultimate month's range is still within the range of the month before it, one should use the range of the previous month before the penultimate month. I'm not quite sure what penultimate means, but what I would say is, let's say we have an uptrend on the monthly chart, right? Let's say this month is just starting. As long as the previous month was up from the previous month, use the range of that month. All right. If this month is finishing and it's an inside month, use this range, the month before it. Don't use this range. Just as a general rule, but I may well still use this range if I think it's worthwhile. It's all a question of what. It's all a question of when you look inside the months and you look at the day chart and the 4-hour structure, what is that also telling you? All right. I could use the inside range. However, if I can see that this inside range, for example, has already found support at the 79% fib of that range there, I will use that range whilever it makes sense to me in terms of the structure that got formed in that month as it was forming. Now, if it doesn't make sense to me, well, yes, I will use that range, okay, as the new month is starting to form. It all depends what the structure inside the candles is telling me from one month to the next as well. All right. I can't give you 100% thumb rule because it all depends what structure I'm seeing inside the months. But the prime example I'm using at the moment is the euro dollar. There's September's candle range. October traded inside that range and failed at the 79% fib. I'm not seeing any reason not to keep using that range. All right. If I see a reason, I might move to using October's range, but it's all experience and how I'm seeing the structure forming within the ranges. At the moment, I'm seeing everything is forming. The structure that's forming, I'm seeing it form within the confines of September's range. If I start to see it form within the range of October's range, then I'll use that range, okay? So I'd like to be able to give you like a Claddine 100% rule, but it's all to do with what range is being respected at the time, all right? However, I do use the general rule. Where did I draw that? What was I looking at when I drew the other thing on? What pair was I on? I was here. All right. As a general rule, as long as I'm having an up month or a down month, I'm using the previous month. If it's an inside candle, I may use one or the other. Generally, I'm using the bigger range, which would be that range there. All right, but you might see me not do that. It all depends what the structure is doing inside the ranges, okay? But on the euro dollar example, that's what I'm doing. I'm using September's and disregarding October's at the moment. All right, so hopefully that helps you. If it doesn't and you want to send me a chart and I'll try and help you more by email, okay? All right, just back on the webinars. So tomorrow I'm going to be reviewing the structure. Maybe we can talk about that again tomorrow if I haven't clarified your question with a good enough answer. So I'm going to be reviewing the structure that formed last month. And we will be looking at the monthly ranges. So if that comes back up in conversation, we can talk about it further. Thursday, we're going to go through live forex market review. Well, I've gotten past the FOMC statement, so we can review price action then and see if there's any good levels that we're at. Next week, and following on from next week. So the theme of this month, I'm going to go through next week's Wednesday webinar on how to become a consistent trader. I'm going to look at trading plans, journaling, psychology, how to forward test your strategy. And I'm actually then going to go through 3 strategies on the Wednesday webinars this month, so that if you want to, say, take one strategy and just test it so that you have a strategy that works, or you prove a strategy works for you, you should have enough information by the end of the month to know how to test a strategy, and as well have 3 strategies that you could pick from and then test one of them, all right, as a long-term strategy that you could keep applying to the market. So that's what's coming up. So lots of information to come along to and attend. So if you've got the time, just come to the webinar page and register, okay? All right, with that in mind, I'm going to wind it up now. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for the questions. Hopefully you got some levels that you can start to watch over the next few days. And if you've got the time, I'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow.